Welcome back. Hi, I'm Clive.
Hey, Louis here.
This is Akush.
We're going to dive into project tracking, as some circles call it, the art of staring at spreadsheets and crying. Not my jokes, not my jokes. Last week, we looked at all of the different ways that you can create a collaborative contract for accountability. We're going to look at how the common data environment is set up and how you can automate that workflow and connect it to the original requirements, how you can use metadata to drive all of that, and how you can actually have structured deliverables. The camp guide, so before we get into it, don't forget you can download the camp guide. It's your cheat sheet to everything that we're covering. All of the steps, all the secrets, none of the fluff. You can see that we've traveled along this path so far, the planning and contracting pieces, and we're going to look at the tracking. Next will be the handover and how we can go through automating the model checking. Projects go sideways. Unfortunately, you have many task lists and no file naming standard survives first contact. We're going to show you today how you can fix that. But yeah, basically we're reinventing the wheel every project, every single, and it becomes frustrating where people say it's not in my contract, so therefore I'm not on the hook for it. I don't need to do it. But unfortunately, what happens is we have situations where people think that they've got the right file and they maybe haven't. Maybe they're checking something and the model is still half empty. Everything feels urgent. Nothing feels very clear, and it's unstructured. Anything that's unstructured is unreliable, and it becomes risky and a bit expensive when things are delayed. Fast forward and nothing's agreed, and so nobody really understands what they've got to deliver, whether they've got to do it this week, next week, and teams are kind of out of sync, out of time, and definitely sometimes out of patience. We also have other pressures as well, time pressures. Meanwhile, the clock doesn't care. The deadline that you committed to vaguely a long time ago, yep, it's now. And you scramble through all those emails and PDFs and random SharePoint folders from 2020, and you realize that project management is not really what it should be. It's really just digital archaeology. And we saw this where we just chuck it over the fence and we hope the next team figures it out. It's the classic, not my problem anymore. And it becomes a game that nobody really wins.
I've been on the sending side and the receiving side on that.
Getting hit by the deliverable as it comes into your silo.
I used to chuck things pretty good too.
Well, I mean, this one hurts. And, we make fun of it because it's a cartoon here, but it really is this process where everyone has their own to-do list, and you end up having one person trying to herd cats and asking, can I have your project status report? And then when people give you the status report, it's not always as clean and simple. It can be sandbagging. It can be over-promising, under-delivering. It can be trying to get paid.
Akash had a really good point the other day, just saying, like, why is this even a role to be tracking everybody's work? That's not management, right? That creating a status for a status report and having to go back and forth, it should be much more transparent. We should all be on the same page, and we should all know what the status of our tasks are and others, and way more transparent rather than having to go through this step, which we're kind of just used to anyway. But why does it exist? Yeah.
So how do we fix it? We like 3 simple steps. When you've created a contract and you've got requirements in your contract, it would be great if that could connect right the way throughout, and everything you've created for your contract, if that could help you speed the creation of those deliverables as you're creating them. And then if you could automate that workflow, that would be good as well. So we looked at all of these things. It sounds quite challenging to do, but let's look at setting up your CDE with smart naming and filters, how to connect into resources like Autodesk Construction Cloud, how to use your requirements and maybe with a Revit add-on to be able to put them into Revit, how to use them in Celibri and ArchiCAD and a whole bunch of others, and how to use work packages that we'd set up, and how to start the checking process and the automation in the checking. So there's a lot to cover. Let's stop talking. Let's get hands-on and see how simple this workflow can be. I'm going to jump into Plannerly and into the project. So we were in a project before, and we looked at creating all of our project documents and having permissions on them and being able to assign them and so on. And we also defined a scope that had all of the requirements, whether they were model deliverables and maybe elements in the model, or the master information delivery plan. And if I turn on the documents, you can see that we even define all of these placeholders as well for everything. As we were creating this, we started to generate contracts, started to generate files, and we generated a contract that we even got signed. So if I open up this, we had Akash and myself and Louis sign it. And this is our agreement that is a true agreement, how we had defined what success looks like on this project. And the benefit of this is that we actually have the live ongoing update and also the archived PDFs and the placeholders for things that haven't been created yet, all in the same place. Everything is automated. Who created it, who approved it. We've got all of that in the same place. This is the contract that I just opened. There's an information eye that tells us exactly what was in that. And we can keep working on the live version. And at any point in time, I can just simply hit to create a new version. And it's just created me a new version too. And if I wanted to, I could even start to automatically set these up. So this version 2 is set here. I can show more versions. I see these. I see this one was the approved one. This one hasn't had approval status, but I can automatically version this and say every Monday morning at 7 a.m., send this to my project team members, send this to Kosh and Louis and have some kind of a message, and then set this up and hit save. And now this is going to automatically send them a new version of this every Monday morning.
This is super cool. Just having all the docs and files finally talking to each other. No more digging around through tons of folders or second guessing which version is the latest. It's all synced up, clean, and easy to manage.
It seems pretty easy to manage, but we also might want to have more information than what's set up here. And in order to do that, we can start adding metadata columns in the columns dropdown and just say add column. And inside of here, we might want to start to define maybe the file type as a piece of metadata. And I can add a few of these. Maybe they are things like the model, and we have an abbreviation of M, and maybe it's the contract and an abbreviation of C.
There are pretty cool use cases, actually. So working with teams, yeah, it really depends on what you want to collect and what metadata is really relevant for the project. So I saw some teams adding, for example, location information. Is it tower A, tower B? Is it a first floor, second floor, wherever it belongs to? So now you would also be able to start using that metadata for filtering in the future as well.
Yep. And so if I'm going to default just to say select, and then it's now a file type drop down. Let me close off the left-hand side. We can see it. Maybe you guys could go into this and start filling in the types so we can see them in here and start to, but I can just basically say this is a contract and then this is now defined. I could add as many as I need to start managing this. So I can see some things are models, some things are contracts. These are all being selected by Akash and Louis. If you're in the project, that'd be great. And what we can do with these is start to add filters that would automatically, based on that metadata, start to put them into these filtered folders on the left-hand side. At the moment, we've just got this all files, but maybe if let's filter for just models. And then because I've got a filter defined, I can now save this as a new filter on the left-hand side. And I'm going to say that this is our models folder. And then I'm going to create another one for, let's say, what else have we got? Contracts. So I'm going to create a new folder, filter for contracts. And I could just duplicate this one and then change it. So let me just filter for contracts. And if I was to change this one and say, I want one for reports as well. And now I want to update the filter. So I can have my contracts and then I can have my reports. And I want to say that this is reports. And then one other, let's have 3D models in here as well. So I could do this as being models. Let's do a drawings folder as well. So I'm going to say drawings, save as new filter, and I'm going to say drawings. Okay, so now I've got my filters set up, and they could be filtered for a team as well. And we could start to define a lot of metadata and a lot of different ways to filter and set these up. But one of the beautiful things about this is that we have file permissions based on the actual file itself rather than just on a folder. And what we're able to do is define the team's access, whether all teams have access to it or whether certain teams have access to this file. And based on that, other people can see that file or do not see that file. And maybe if we show the permission for, let me jump in and see Michelle. Michelle is in this project. And if I jump into the project in Michelle's login, and then I can see she sees all files only has 7 files. Models just shows 2 models, and it's only the models that she has access to. So we don't have to replicate all of these folders as separate folders with a whole bunch of other permissions on folders. It's all automatically set up for us. That's super cool, isn't it, Louis?
Yeah, it totally is.
Seamless demo.
So yeah, there's no duplicate of folders. There's no duplicate of documents. I don't have to think about how I'm going to structure this without providing Michelle some access and then think about all that. Everyone has the same folder structure essentially with all these filters, but it's just a matter of who has access to certain documents. So in Michelle's view, everything's jolly. And in our view, the manager's view, everything is there in one place. So communication between Akash, Michelle, Clive, it's all there without having to go, wait, you're this team, I've got to go over here, I'll send you that tomorrow. And all that kind of just goes away.
Yep, super cool. So once we've defined all of these as filters, that's cool because it basically automatically filters them. And if I have maybe one that's contracts that's not approved and then contracts that are approved, I could even filter those out and provide access to certain people with the ones that are approved, and ones that are not approved just go somewhere else. But we also have to, in ISO 19650, think about naming conventions and naming standards. And inside of my project, when we've got all of these files, it would be really challenging to force everyone on a project to name their files in the same way. And we also think that this is probably one of the most discussed and one of the most challenging things to actually do. So we said, why don't we automate this? So we put a button for the file naming standard. And instead of you having to force everyone, you can actually just say, I'm just going to add some fields and make this a part of the process. So if I've got a project ID, it's simply going to take that project ID and then the originator. So maybe this was created by, and you want the team abbreviation. And then you would want maybe the functional breakdown, spatial breakdown, or maybe it's the extension of the file. So you know what type of file, but maybe it's then also the file type by definition. Obviously, there are standard ways in national annexes to go through this process and make sure that it fits for you. There's also the need for everything to be unique. So maybe we would have a version. We would also want the unique number to be added. And if I hit now save on this, we now see that we have a specific naming convention that's automatically created. I haven't done anything. And as soon as I reversion this, or as soon as this new version goes out on Monday morning with the latest and greatest contract information, all of these are automatically updated for me.
You know what? I think this is super cool. I see teams that one of the first things that when it becomes to implementing ISO 19650 or just working together in an environment is the challenge of finding the right naming convention. And when we start putting together these strings manually, that's a real administration burden and the challenge to really understand what the files contain. Not to mention cases when there are multiple teams, some of them are more advanced and they introduce their own file naming convention already. And now they would have to change it to meet the project requirements. Again, that's quite a headache, but we can forget all about that because you just keep on uploading and it is going to get the file naming automatically.
Yep. And when you download it, it has that name. I take it away from the project. So once we've created that and automated those pieces, what happens next? How do we use it? So we've created structured information requirements, and they can be used actually in many different parts of your workflow. And if you think about this as an integrated 3-step process, we like 3 steps. You've defined information requirements inside of Planoly, inside of the scope module, and you can export them in a number of different formats. In Excel as a structured set of information, and also in IDS, information delivery specifications. And when you export them and start using them, you can use them in many different places. And we'll show you a few of those. And then when you bring them back, you can either use them to both create the deliverables and also to check them, or you could use the checks inside of Planoly's verify module, and we're going to show you some about that next as well. So that integrated workflow, those 3 steps, defining requirements, using structured data to be able to create, and then also structured data to be able to check those requirements. So inside of Planoly, you can drag and drop from your standards to create your scope, and then export that scope as a structured set of requirements. So you go to the export menu, You could create an IDS file, and then you can also export as an Excel file. And inside the Revit add-on that is available, if you're interested more about this, there are other webinars on this that are going into the details. But you can import this, and as you import this into the Revit add-on, it basically is restricting your options and saying, these are the fields that are being requested, these are the allowable values, and it will even go through and do the checks to make sure that you are putting in values that meet those requirements. Inside of other tools like ArchiCAD, there are some native imports. So there you can import the IDS file from Planoly directly and see all of those properties, and then make those properties available inside of the geometry, inside of the wall selection.
Yeah. Properties and property values, I just wanted to mention units of measurements, but also your work breakdown structure, so your classification structure will be imported and can be applied to your elements inside of ArchiCAD.
Yep. And then also inside of Solibri, so you can take that set of IDS requirements and then use it. If you're already inside of Solibri, using Solibri to do checking, then you can use that and then go through your checks and make sure that the data checked inside of Solibri works. But if you're using Planoly as well, you can use Planoly, and we'll show you how, using the verify module, you can go through these steps to then visualize and automate that checking process and put it in the hands of the people that actually should have it. So hopefully you'll get the right deliverables at the end of it. So there's a lot in there, basically being able to use those structured information requirements in order to be able to generate better deliverables. But we also have these challenges where, let's be honest, most projects still look like this. You've got one person clinging to this outdated spreadsheet. You've got loads of people confused about it, people trying to do their best and sharing the right information at the right time, but nobody's really happy. Even if you're creating good deliverables, trying to tie that with the original intent is difficult. Louis and I have been here specifically a bit of a tangled mess of spreadsheets and formulas, and it was kind of a bit of a fragile workflow. But yeah, we built timelines and formulas and integrations. It was kind of impressive, I suppose, until it wasn't very impressive.
It was pretty cool, but when you were the only one that could update it in fear of someone else breaking it, that got overwhelming. And the template was, linking to 3 separate projects at one point. And it worked, but it was just super complicated and complex. And it was a lot of work, but it was
a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was a bit messy, a bit manual. But so when we were doing this, it was trying to connect the intent, the set of requirements, to when people were delivering. And basically, what we saw an opportunity to automate all of this and to make it a lot easier and to help people to track what they're doing in a connected workflow. And that's what Demo 3 is about. So we're going to talk about how you can track those deliverables and make sure that what you're asking for is going to actually be delivered at the right time. And also you have all of the conditions of satisfaction to make sure that people are delivering to the right quality as well. So let's jump back into Planoly, and then we're going to look at this is good. So we're in the scope and we're in the grid view. So we can start to see all of the requirements in a grid. This building design package required some certain deliverables. And in order to be able to deliver those, I can simply find them in my folder here. I've got some files here. One of them was the room data sheets here as an Excel file. If I've been working on my filing and I have my own naming convention, then it might be difficult sometimes to match that up. But if I also am working on different forms and formats, and maybe I want to drag and drop this one and say, this is my room data sheet, I'm going to drop it in here. Well, it's going to check to see whether I'm uploading the right file type. It's going to ask basically a lot of questions as I go through this process. And actually, I'm not going to be allowed to upload this as the file here because it says I'm looking for an XLS file rather than a PDF. Okay, so let's grab the XLSX, and I'm going to upload that one to the room data sheets. And I'm also going to upload the PDF to this one. And maybe this is a bit out of order, from a bit out of sequence for our process. But now we can see we've got these two that are uploaded. And it means that I've started this task. So I'm going to now move this task to be in my started status. Just like that, we have a way of updating my deliverable based on the set of requirements. And now it's not only connected, but it means that it's got the history as well, and the thread of who's requested it, what they've requested, when they've delivered it, and so on and so forth. So now I've got here where I've changed the status. Actually, this file will be uploaded, and inside of File Manager, if I go to File Manager, look at Files, and I look for my room data sheets, here they are, and I can see exactly who's uploaded them, and it's already automatically named those files for me as well.
Yeah, what I think is really super cool about it is that the management of the document requirements and uploading the documents can happen in the same place. So it's not like having a set of requirements in an Excel sheet and then somewhere file storage and you just dump a lot of files and good luck finding what you uploaded. But actually everything is really traceable. You see who is responsible for uploading what, you see when it got uploaded, but also you can start tracking the statuses of these deliverables and tasks. So you really see how things are moving from a pending status to a completed status, which is the end goal of the entire project.
Yep, exactly. And if we look at that as one way, there are actually a bunch of different ways, but one of them is being able to just drag and drop into the grid of requirements. Another way is using a lean approach, which is this Kanban view, where we can start to see all of the different statuses. And here I can see this is the task that I've started. I could drag and drop this one around. And maybe what I actually want to do now is act as the mechanical team. And let's choose this as the work package that we defined. And now this even more hones the view for me as the mechanical engineer. And I can see that I've got this task that is approved and ready to be started. And I can even open it up and see what the requirements are. I can see that there's a requirement for a certificate as well. I can see the checklist of items. If I open this card, I see the full view of this card, and I can then start to see whether I have done some of these things. So I can check off the things that I've done. Let me just check them all off. And I can also see whether I've added, using the maybe the Revit add-on, added these properties inside of our model. And I can even see that there's a requirement for a certificate. And that certificate I can then upload to this from my placeholders. And let's see, files. Maybe I have a certificate. Do I have a certificate? I thought I had a certificate. I'm going to upload O&M manuals. I'm going to say that is the certificate. It actually then renames it because I'm telling it that is the thing that I'm uploading. And now it's attached to this task, and I can then status this task and change it. Maybe I just want to say that this is now the one that's completed. It's ready to be reviewed by others.
Yeah, this is super cool because you can hone in on exactly what you want. On the mechanical perspective, I'm just looking at my package, my scope of work. It is synced and linked up to the items from our contract, the scope. I can open it up and start checking off the boxes, whether it's for information requirements, whether it's just to add documents. Whatever my task is, I can hone in on exactly what's needed at that point in time. So nothing slips through the cracks because we get full visibility of everything we need in one place.
Super cool. So imagine that there's another way, maybe an even more automated way of uploading these. And if I've got some files that maybe, let's just say that I've got a whole bunch of these files and I just want to upload them, I can just drag and drop them, update some permissions, have certain people have access to these, and maybe update. If I do want to update the owner, it's not going to update the created. That's all automated. It understands what file types they are, and it's going to start to automatically version these files as well. So you can see them all uploading. Maybe you guys can also upload some files as well, so we can see more of these and how they version and what automatically is happening to them. Yep, so I can see them all adding. All of the names are automatically added. I can see Akash is adding some. Maybe Louis, are you adding some as well?
Yep.
Cool. And as these all come through, it's automating and collating these versions. So now I've got the carbon impact summary that has been uploaded, but I can also see the different versions of this file that are uploaded at different times as well. Each one of these is automating the versioning, automating the naming, automating from a permissions perspective, and even automating now into each of these specific filters as well. So as we go through, which ones have we got more content in? Drawings. Okay, so here we've got a drawing package, a concept design package that was uploaded by Louis. It's automatically versioned, and then I can open this and start to see this is our final concept package. Great, that's great, love it. What do we need to do? Do we need approval on it? It's specifically a file type. It's been included in the name. Well, All of this is automated.
Yeah. What is, again, really super cool about it is we've shown a couple of ways of uploading documents. You can do it in the grid. You can switch to a Kanban board, whichever supports your needs the best. You can even just drop a number of files into the file manager. Everything is going to be updated, synced. And I think one of the real powerful things in this is having the filters. So instead of managing folder structures, because you just create filters on the set of data, on the set of files, everything is going to be updated. So no problems like having an outdated file in a certain folder and the downstream processes would be using a wrong starting point. Everything is going to be the same all across your project.
So it doesn't matter where you upload, whether you upload it in the card, in the grid, or automate, it's all connected to the same place. That is super cool. So that's overall how you start to create requirements, how you use those requirements, and how you can then deliver the automation in the naming convention, automation in files being filtered into the right places, automation in permissions, and automation we saw in approvals. And then we saw all of these different column types that you can add to this and manage this. This is great. And also all of the different versions as well. So inside of here, automatically showing and having the versions all connected. So you can show multiple versions and you can obviously access any one of those at any time. But what about files in other locations? I hear you scream. That's a great question and a great point. And if we jump into Verify, what we also want to start to connect the dots for so that we can talk more about that automation in next handover session is connecting into other environments, and model deliverables is one of those. We have a view that if we switch from the Kanban board into the model viewer, we can either upload files. I could grab a file from File Manager if it's already there, or I can start to connect into other systems and start to connect into other projects. So if we've got a project inside, in this example, it's in ACC, and I want to connect in a specific model, and then start to see what those updates look like. So inside of ACC, it looks like we've got a terrible naming convention, but I can read it. I know what it is. I'm going to connect in the architecture model. And as we connect this in, it's going to ask me, do I want to process this file? I'm going to process this file as well. What that means is it's going to store the properties and make checks on those requirements and properties. And it will send me an email when it's done. But now we have this model available, and that model, once it's going through indexing, is going to connect to the tasks and start to automatically track and check these tasks. And so what I would want to do, as if I was the architect, is I would filter for just my tasks on this specific set. And then I would start to see some of these that maybe are connected based on rules. And this is something that we're going to go into a lot more about linking, about checking, and about even exporting all of that linked data as a handover data set with all of the COBie in this format, all of the properties, anything that you have created and you filled in a value, you can then export that if that was a requirement. Every time you update the file inside of the other CDE, connected CDEs that you're using, these would automatically synchronize as well. So you don't have to upload this file in multiple places as well. So we'll see a lot more on this next.
Yeah, that was a sneak peek already to when we are going to talk about validating the model and model compliance. But the other beauty is what is really super cool is that we can now link into, for example, to ACC so to grab the model. So your Planoly project can really act as a single source of truth, even though it might not be in a single location. You can grab pieces of information and deliverables from different sources as well.
Very cool. And just so that we can kind of see this in action, don't do what I'm doing. But just so that we can see, oh, I didn't even have a requirement. Hold on. Information requirement. There's a fire rating on this one, and then it checks it. Great. So we can see that we can start to analyze and evaluate whether the properties that we have asked for are actually meeting the requirements. And we're going to go through all of this and how you do that per work package and how you report on that. We're going to even talk about when you're exporting some of these. We've talked about the docs and the scope. Then we'll also have verify reports, and you can start to see that these are basically a report showing how you're going against progress. And that can be combined with these work package filters and what the requirements were originally. All of this automated, all of this tracked, all of this linked to all of the deliverables inside of your project, as much automation as you can. Now what? I hear you scream. So yeah, we've talked about what's broken and how to fix it. Now it's kind of up to you guys. Hopefully you can download the camp guide and use a workflow that is integrated. It's easier for all of these teams. And this is your cheat sheet to it. We joke that it's completely legal and free and actually useful. Hopefully you can use it and tell us what's needed in this workflow as well, because we will continue to develop it. We talked about your challenge last. We introduced this challenge because you can add new fields of any type inside of that grid, whether it's a cost or a pick list or a URL, etc. We've seen a lot about the documents one, and an example of a team that's using some of these to meet the level of information need requirements in their grid, where they're showing some of these as Booleans for dimensionality and location as a pick list, and then whether it's parametric or not. Send in yours to hello@plannerly.com and we will pick a winner. So whether you're a giant real estate provider, a small consultant that's supporting some of these teams, or somebody in the evaluation and auditing process, our purpose is to make your life easier. And if you're not involved already, you can get a free account on plannerly.com, hit the join free button at any point in time and really dig into that. You can chat with us in the app, and you can also book a meeting if you want to dig deeper into any of these parts of the process. If you want to just learn more and generally get understanding about BIM and information management, then we have our basics through advanced expert and learning more about ISO 19650. All of these training courses are free of charge. You can grab them on the training page. And mentioned there about partnerships. If you're an educator and a university or a BIM consultant or a trainer of a team, let's team up, because we've got a specific program just for you, just for universities, trainers, and consultants. Book a meeting with us, and we're all about supplying you with the software, the training, and a bunch of other perks. So book a 20-minute call with us, and we'll get you on the right track. You've seen our faces, you've seen our cartoons. We're real people, so I may be the dry one. Akos is the structured one. Louis is the funny one. You can reach out anytime, and we actually reply. And we also have a LinkedIn group where we share what's going on, updates, and some fun stuff. Scan that code. We have talked so far about defining actionable information requirements, how we want really collaborative agreements rather than just contracts. And then we talked about how you can organize using metadata, the files and folders, and automate that workflow and have it connected to the requirements. So you've got really an intelligent interface over a database that allows teams to really interact with that and make it so much easier for them to use the information requirements to create deliverables, and then to also manage as they're updating and sharing, so that you're handing over the right information at the right time for the right teams. It all has that golden thread, the history and everything else. And then next, we're going to talk about how automation comes into the verification of that. And then we'll have the final session, which is graduation and prizes. Thank you so much for your involvement. We really appreciate you. Our reminder is, and this is what we believe, that trust is a system, not a spreadsheet.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Bye.